Hey, this is Danielle from Black Business Boom and Black Owned Nashville, and I am live with Money Mitra, and I am so excited because we're going to be talking about mortgages. Earlier today, we talked a little bit about real estate, but you cannot go get real estate if you don't have a mortgage or can't get a mortgage. And so I think it's really important that we tie these things together and educate our community as much as we can about all of the different steps of home ownership. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Mitra. How are you?
I'm doing well, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's get to it because I know people have questions and we have answers. So let's learn a little bit about you and your background. How did you get into the mortgage industry? How long have you been doing it? And tell us just a little bit more about the actual business.
So, in March of this year, will actually be my 10-year anniversary. So, it'll be a 10 years, a decade in the mortgage industry. And I actually came in here in a unique way. It wasn't the traditional route. It's not like I woke up one day and said, I want to be a mortgage lender. So I came here, I grew up in Alabama and I moved to Nashville to go to Vanderbilt University, started out pre-med. I was like, I don't like blood. What am I doing this for? Maybe for my parents. And then I also got a master's degree in clinical psychology. Came out what we refer to as the mortgage crisis or the mortgage meltdown of 2009, and I couldn't find a job. Everyone's like, "We'd love to hire you, but you need more experience." And I'm like, "Okay, well, how do I get that?" So I had to pivot and really just have grit and resilience. I did some different things, and then someone was like, "You're really great at building relationships. Why don't you give the mortgage industry a shot?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll try it, but it sounds really boring." It's just something, at that time, all I had heard of was a 15-year and a 30-year mortgage. And I thought it was something for old people because my parents were the people, the ones that had one at the time. Now I'm the old person with the mortgage. But I went in there just really with a student and teacher spirit because that's all I knew. Education has always been such a huge, important part of my life. And really, I feel like it's the foundation to everything. So I went in there, and I really just sought out knowledge. I didn't know much, about credit, about how money worked, any of that. And I just, worked my way up. I ended up into management. I was one of the top, people at the company I was with. And it was just, really interesting. Now, what I did find out or about myself over time and just, being in the industry, I had to kind of reconnect to a passion. And there's times that sometimes, we can get a little bit burnt out or, tired of the things that we're doing. And I really saw that there was this huge need within the Black community when it came to mortgage lenders that were really in their corner advocating for them. I was seeing so many people getting thrown to the wayside because it wasn't what we call A-paper loans, which, have the stellar credit, the great income. Because let's be honest, in our community, there's this huge gap in homeownership. And the reason being there's a lack of knowledge, of generational wealth in the form of knowledge and generational wealth in the form of resources. So that was where I was able to kind of rise like the phoenix and say, there's really something here and there's really something meaningful and that I can fulfill myself while also helping others. So that was really, my trajectory into doing mortgages.
That is an amazing story. I have these conversations with folks all day, every day, and learning people's backgrounds and their story is always interesting. And a lot of the themes that I see is like, I started off doing this thing, then I ended up doing this thing and have been able to do it and do it well and become an expert in it. So that inspires me, as well, because that's part of my story. And I hope that it inspires those that are out there still trying to find their way and find the right path for them. So you touched on, the Black community and home ownership and, that there is this gap. And one of the ways that there is a gap is just the mindset and just our overall mindset and relationship with money. So can you speak to us a little bit about why our money mindset and home ownership is so important for us to shift in order to grow our communities?
Definitely. So one of the main things that we have to do and shift our mindsets is to find ways to economically empower ourselves and take that into our own hands. And we don't always understand, the importance of credit until it's time to get a loan. So I work with a lot of clients, who need that credit repair. And I kind of live by the mantra, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. However, I really like to remove the shame, the guilt, because a lot of the things that we carry, it's not even our own. There's a lot of when it comes to our money mindset, if you think about banks and the history of that, why has there been traditionally a lack of trust within the banking industry, within the Black community? And that's because, there was a Freedmen's Bank, and, they weren't FDIC insured, and the, slaves that were freed were able to save their money supposedly there, but then everything happened, right? Black Wall Street, everything crumbled down and they lost their money. So that led to people utilizing mattress money and hiding it, there. So one, we have to shift our mindset and really connect with people, like I said, that are there to advocate for us, to empower us, to educate us when it comes to owning homes. And also, knowing the statistics and the facts. Home ownership is about 42% in the Black community, while in comparison to the white community, we're looking at about 73% home ownership, which is a scathing gap. That's 30%, of a gap right there. And home ownership is one of the main, if not the main vehicle when it comes to building wealth. So if we're not addressing this gap, if we're not providing the resources and finding ways to not only have equality, but also equity, because, sometimes you just can't make things fair. You have to kind of shift a group up in order to find that balance. We really have to start looking at it that way and looking at our money. I really like for people to look at things with having an investor mindset. Even if you're a first-time home buyer, you're buying a home and that home is an investment for you. This home becomes your own bank. It allows you to be able to pay off those student loans that get on your nerves over time, to pay off high interest debt, to reach so many goals that allow you to have that ownership and control over your life. So it's very important.
I love it. That was very, very helpful. Now, the next thing that people usually say, like once they can get their mind right and they decide, I really need to, own the place where I live. I've been paying rent for 15, 20 years and I don't own anything. And I want to get started. And so maybe they've now worked on their credit and built up their credit where it's, acceptable enough for them to go out and get a mortgage. But then there's the down payment issue. So many folks are then like, well, I don't have the money for the down payment. So can you tell us about, are there any options for down payment assistance for those that don't have enough money to cover their down payment or even their closing costs?
For sure. So one option, and as I was talking about equity and inclusion, I have a program that is 100% financing. And the next features of this loan I'm going to tell you about that are very unique. So we've seen people that, maybe have, some money saved, but they don't have all of it saved. And in this market, it's very challenging. If you, don't have money, it does set you, a little bit behind there. So this loan is 100% financing, and it's for only non-white homeowners. So when I say bridging the gap, we are not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. This loan has a very low barrier to entry. The minimum credit score is only 630, whereas some of the other products you have to be at 640 or above. Now, another unique feature, this loan has no second mortgage payment, so you're financing the entire amount. There is also no income limit. And if you've been researching down payment assistance options, then you know that typically they're capping the income requirement as well. They have this, term average median income that it can't be over a certain amount. It doesn't matter if you make $200,000, $300,000, you would still qualify for this loan as long as you identify as non-white. So, that's just such a huge benefit. Like I said, there's no second mortgage payment, and you can actually own one other home as long as that debt to income ratio works out. So what I've really been trying to help people do to shift their mindset, instead of always selling their home, why not start building a real estate portfolio? Again, thinking like an investor. Let's take that first home that you have, rent it out. I'll show you how to give you enough credit to wash out that mortgage payment so it's not hitting that nasty word DTI, debt to income ratio, unless it works for you. If that's the case, that's fine. And then, now if it's not included, you can buy another home. And the loan actually allows you to go up to $400,000 in loan amount. So, that is a really, really great option, especially, if someone, has some money saved. I always tell people to get creative, think outside the box, save your tax money right now. You may think I don't have any money, but you may be sitting on incoming money through your tax refunds, also through your 401k, just different ways there. And then also it's very, very important to have a great realtor. I cannot stress that enough. So there are some, that are, really just know how to get it done. that know how to negotiate. And typically if they write an offer, it's going to get accepted even in the current market. So if you do need a referral, let me know. I can connect you to, people within my network as well that I know that are, some of them are brokers, some have, many years of experience, and they are really great at getting you in the home and negotiating and advocating on your behalf. And then there's also a THDA option. You can get 6,000 or 6%. There is, you cannot have owned a home in the last 3 years. So that's different than the other loan program. And there are income limits on that one. There also is a second mortgage payment as well if you take the 6% option. So I would
either way, the point is there are options.
Right.
So I know a lot of what you said may have even went over folks' heads. They're like, but the point is, do not feel like you can't proceed and there are not options out there for you. If you are in a position where you haven't been able to save, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, there may be an option, or there is an option more than likely for you. And Money Mitra is the one to get you there. So I'm excited about that. Now, the last thing I really want us to touch on is that, this is a really competitive market that we're in, definitely in the Nashville area, but across the country. It is really hard. And they're saying first-time home buyers are really experiencing a lot of difficulty with getting their offers accepted. They're, fighting with corporations really, in order to, and investors as well, in order to get their dream home, for their family. So what advice do you have for first-time home buyers that are in this situation, that are getting discouraged? Are there some mindset things that you can lend us? What advice do you have for those folks?
Yeah. So one thing I said, having a great team, making sure you have a great realtor, great lender, that lays the foundation for it. And then when it comes to the mindset, I hear a lot of people saying, and I will say, I don't agree that home ownership is for everyone. I think everyone should have clarity on how they want their money to work for them and what they want their life to look like, because we're all creating our lives on this journey. And I believe we even have, a money journey. So one of the big things I tell people is to, remember that this is not going to be your forever home. If you're not qualified for as much as you would like out the gate, shift your mindset. And again, think, like I said earlier, that you can own this home in a year. You can, turn it into a rental, and you can buy something else using that 100% product again. So, don't get so stuck on, oh, I'm going to have to be here forever, because that's really not the case. Decide what your non-negotiables are and what you're willing to compromise on, but also be realistic, because if home values are continuing to go up and if rates are going up, then that same home that you feel like you don't really want, it's only going to cost you more. So you're going to be sitting on the sidelines. And what I feel like is going on, and it really kind of hurts my heart, but I feel like home ownership is becoming more of a privilege, just like education, just like healthcare. So I really urge you to get off of the sidelines, connect with someone, like I said, that you feel like can, really work with you to overcome those things. And that's what I do with my clients. I guess I get to actually use my psychology degree, because I've helped people get really amazing breakthroughs. Even the other week, this young lady that would have missed out, she was just kind of, like I said, sitting on the sidelines, and we had a really big heart to heart. And the next day, her entire mindset was like transformed. And so it was really amazing for her to experience her aha moments. And now she's under contract and she's going to be able to get this home. It's a new construction. So I think, and I feel like, maybe I was even, kind of having limiting beliefs on her, because she was like, well, I want something new. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it won't be new. But she even found something new. So even first-time homeowners, think about that. New construction is a great option because there is less, competition when it comes to that. You may be waiting a little bit longer, but there's less competition. You'd also want to consider too that, how far out will it be? Because, rates are kind of shifting. So we just want to make sure, again, that debt to income ratio and the qualification will remain, but it's a great, option. You're not fighting with people and you can get into a brand new home. And I know she's so excited because she's going to be building generational wealth, not only for herself, but for her son too.
I love it. That is amazing. And, as you were talking about your degrees and your path earlier, I was thinking the psychologist, it probably comes in handy, as you're working with folks and really, working through their relationship with money. I think that I'm sure it comes in handy, and we really are honored to have you as one of our experts so that we can explore that more. And, I think as Black people, we just have a very unique relationship with money, with banks, with financial institutions overall. And like you mentioned, that many of our feelings and it about these institutions are warranted, and so,
They're
but
very valid,
we
definitely.
still cannot allow them to um, keep us in the position that we're in, right? And we have to use the newfound initiatives and zeal around, really helping the Black community and use it to our advantage, like in the loan products that you mentioned that are for folks that are of non-white backgrounds. So
Mhm.
it's time for us to, figure out what do we need to do to go to the next step. And home ownership is definitely one of those things. So I'm really excited to have you. We'll be talking more next month about new construction. What are some of the pros and cons? And then we'll also jump into some things about refinancing and things like that, because that, and I hope that we can even talk a little bit more about home equity loans and things like that, because that's another vehicle that you can use once you have some equity in your home. Now you can pull that equity and use it to fulfill your business goals, your investing goals. So I will get into some of that as well. So I'm super
Yeah.
excited to have you. Someone who has this decade long experience, has seen how the market has changed and keeps up with the trends in the industry, which is really important because they're ever changing. So we really appreciate you so much for joining the team and coming to us to chat more about mortgages. Next month, we're going to jump in and dive in a little deeper, but I appreciate your time today, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
I'm so grateful to be here.
I didn't ask the most important question. If someone is trying to get a mortgage, or they've been experiencing some issues with getting a mortgage, or they're like, I'm thinking about it, I want to see if this is even realistic for me, could I even buy a home? How do they reach you?
So feel free to follow me on Instagram. My name there is Money Mitra. Everyone knows how to spell money, and then Mitra. I'm also on Facebook as Mitra Corinne Sharifi. So feel free to send me a message. My website is www.moneymitramortgage.com as
That's
well.
easy to remember. And if someone is just like, I just want to see if this is a thing, can they come to you just to get pre-qualified or figure out, learn more about that process?
Of course, exactly.
Wonderful. So if you are out there, I have seen a lot of posts recently where folks are like, my next step is home ownership. I'm tired of paying rent. You need to find out if that, what do you need to do to get there? It can be a daunting process. It can be a lot, even outside of just finding the right place. The
Right.
mortgage process can be a lot. And now you have an expert that's here to guide you, who is knowledgeable and will teach you about that process. Please take advantage of this resource for our community, moneymitramortgage.com, and then also Money Mitra on Instagram. Thank you so much, Mitra. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Likewise.